After having a dominant second half of the season, to getting compared to some of the biggest names in NBA history, Joel Embiid leads the MVP vote, but will he win it? Well, his case for MVP gets stronger due to a sensational second half of the season. Up until January at least, the MVP award could have gone to anyone: Luka Doncic, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, or Joel Embiid. All those four players were performing excellently, and there were other names on the ballot too, like Kevin Durant. However, since the turn of the year, the game completely changed. Embiid left all the competition behind. Changing gears, especially after the All-Star break, his performances to end the season were even better. And if the Sixers had a bit more consistency defensively, they could have edged ahead of the Boston Celtics in second place. The Cameroonian American has also mentioned many times that he wants to win the MVP award, which is why it becomes more obvious that he played more games than Jokic in the run-in. Yeah, the Nuggets center didn't have much to play for, with the first seed in the West on lock, and Joel had everything to play for, especially after missing out on the MVP award for 2 seasons in a row. So he wanted to end the regular season on a high, and many would agree that he did exactly that. Despite an obvious lack of motivation for Jokic and the Nuggets to play the final few games at full capacity, the fact is, the people making the decisions want their MVP to play games. And that's why Embiid is the current favorite in the race. Look at what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Yeah, I know he's a huge fan of the Sixers star, and his decision might be a little biased, but the facts he presented made sense. The analyst said that Embiid has his vote because, quote, he's played as many games as Jokic, and in those games, he's carried the Philadelphia 76ers on his back throughout. You can't quite disagree with that. Tyrese Maxey was injured quite a bit. James Harden has been inconsistent. And the process, on the other hand, has been absolutely spectacular and dominant. So, if there was any doubt, not that there was, because Smith's been very vocal in his support of Embiid, but he's confirmed on First Take that his vote has very much been cast in favor of the 76ers center. Before I sing more Joel's praise, it would be unfair to overlook just how good Nikola Jokic has been. This might just be the closest MVP race in NBA history. I believe that if not for Jokic purposefully sitting out of the last few games of the season, he would have 100% wrapped up the MVP award, because he was averaging a triple-double for the majority of the campaign. When that happens, it doesn't matter what the other lot's doing. You deserve all the plaudits, praise, and the MVP award. Jokic would have become only the third player in NBA history to average a triple-double for the season. But he's just not someone who chases these records, as he's mentioned many times now. In fact, the Serbian also said that he doesn't care about the MVP award, and the way he's gone about it this season, you can't say he's lying. Maybe it's got something to do with Jokic winning it back-to-back in the last 2 seasons. But try to name a player in the NBA who wouldn't have tried his best to win a third consecutive MVP award and join the rarest company by doing so. What makes Jokic's case even more airtight for the MVP is the fact that he led the Nuggets to the #1 seed in the toughest Western Conference in years. Yet, after what has been a once-in-a-lifetime season, Jokic will probably end the campaign without the MVP award. But he's not the only player who produced something unreal this season. Just look at what Giannis Antetokounmpo was up to in Milwaukee. Another 2-time MVP, Giannis has been unfairly undermined all season long. Somehow, amidst all the Jokic-Embiid debates, fans and analysts alike have overlooked just how great a season Giannis had, individually and as a leader of the Bucks, taking them to the best record in the NBA. Again, it's probably the fact that he's won it a couple of times, and now he's got his eyes on the bigger prize, the NBA championship. But he didn't even campaign for himself in the race. The NBA champion improved on his 2-time MVP winning campaigns by averaging over 34 points per game, while coming up with nearly 20 rebounds per night. That's staggering. He was a demon, both offensively and defensively throughout the regular season. And with Chris Middleton out injured, Giannis pretty much decided to lead the Bucks on his own, finishing ahead of a very decent Celtics side in the East. But again, for many, he's the third best, behind Jokic and someplace behind Embiid. Who could finally win it this year? One of the factors going Joel's way is voter fatigue. It's a very real problem in the NBA. If it wasn't a real issue, LeBron James would have had many more MVPs than his collection of 4. Kobe would have had at least 3, and Michael Jordan would have managed 6 or even 7. It's just the fact that voters get bored seeing the same player win the award, which I understand is unfair, but it's not like I'm making up the rule, right? The beneficiary of this voter fatigue will be Joel Embiid, considering his main competitors have collectively won all 4 MVP awards in the last 4 seasons. But if we're strictly talking numbers, he's a deserving winner. He leads the points scored per game against both Giannis and Jokic by a fair margin. He may be behind in terms of rebounds and assists, but he makes it up when it comes to blocks per game and steals per game, showcasing his effectiveness on both ends of the floor. A true shooting percentage of 65.3% is outrageous as well, and it gets even more impressive if you factor in his ridiculous 37.1 usage rate. Not to mention, he added the clutch gene to his impressive collection of skills and was fantastic throughout the campaign. However, the biggest factor that goes in favor of Embiid isn't numbers, it's the way he's racked them up. You see, Giannis and Jokic both played in the same system throughout the season for their respective sides. Embiid, on the other hand, had to deal with a number of different lineups and a number of different roles that he was supposed to fill. He did it very effectively as well. In Harden's absence, he was even creating shot-making opportunities for his teammates, all while creating and scoring off his own offense. The ability to do all this while trying to keep the 76ers afloat is underrated to say the least. People often forget how terrible the first couple of months were for Philadelphia. PJ Tucker and Anthony Melton were getting acclimated to their new surroundings. Harden was still figuring out his new role on the team. And of course, the countless injuries. Through it all, there was one constant, and that was Embiid. The Sixers could have easily fallen out of contention if not for his hero ball, which helped them not only stay afloat, but also gain considerable ground over the other competitors in the East. Ultimately, though, it also comes down to what the general opinion is, and most players and fans believe that Embiid is the deserving winner. Zach LaVine was asked about the MVP race, and the Bulls star mentioned how he was surprised the Sixers MVP hadn't won it already, but also believed that this year he'd finally get his hands on that trophy. More recently, Jimmy Butler revealed his pick for the MVP award, and that was also the Sixers center. Mike Conley said that he hasn't seen anybody as dominant as Embiid, so it's safe to say that the Minnesota Star will be voting for him as well. Draymond Green is also backing Embiid to win, especially after the way the last few weeks panned out, and most analysts are also firmly aboard the process train. As far as fans are concerned, it's very one-sided. Most are adamant that there's only one winner, and that is Joel. While there is considerable support for Jokic too, it's definitely not as much as it was last year or the year before. At the end of the day, the fact is, while both the other stars deserve to have their names taken, Embiid's season has been truly historic. The 76ers star has been compared to some of the biggest names in NBA history. Stephen A. Smith talked about how the NBA hasn't seen someone as big as him dominate the game like he has. The analyst compared him to the likes of Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Shaquille O'Neal. If you're getting shouts like these, it's only fair that you land an MVP award too, right? More importantly, he was called a bust early in his career. Fans wrote him off, and analysts thought he wasn't good enough, only for Embiid to produce what he has been producing for 3 years now so consistently. It would be a gross injustice if he came off this stretch with nothing to show for it. So, from being compared to the all-time greats to ending the season on a high, these were the reasons why Joel Embiid could win the MVP award this season.